What up, guys? It's Dom, and welcome to another movie review. Today, we are going to talk about your favorite blue-skinned, big-headed alien, Megamind. Megamind, released in 2010, directed by Tom McGrath. Now, this is one of my personal favorite animations, and I cannot wait to cover it. So let's just get into the 10 essential aspects of a movie. Plot. Does the movie follow a comprehensive story arc and is plausible within the world that has been created? Now, I'm going to say yes, everything is plausible because this is a universe where superpowers do exist. Therefore, it's plausible. Just like in the DC or Marvel universe, superpowers means most likely anything is really plausible. Now, about the story. I love this story. Okay. The amount of twists that they have, the surprise factor you get, the connection you get with all the characters because of how deep the story goes. This is an origin story too, so you get to know what they were like from the beginning. That is really good aspects to add to your plot. And I loved it. I would not change the plot for anything else. I wouldn't add anything. I wouldn't remove anything. It is perfect the way it is. Attraction. Does the movie have an interesting premise with a high entertainment value? Interesting premise? Absolutely. I love that they had the villain finally beat the hero for once, and you get to experience what happens afterwards. I loved that. I'm glad they chose that. And high entertainment, 100%. The action scenes were fun. The comedy was hilarious. I loved it the whole time. There was never a point where I was not entertained during this movie. Theme. What message or truth is the movie trying to convey? So this one's tricky because everyone can see a different message in the same movie. For example, me, I personally think it's change, that everybody can change, heroes and villains alike. But who knows? Maybe you watched this movie and you see a completely different message that trumps that. I mean, let me know in the comments, but mine is definitely that everybody can change. Dialogue. Is there a real feel to the conversations? Now, the dialogue was very comedic throughout the whole movie. There was a lot of jokes, a lot of comedy. It works, though. I don't know how. Usually that can really ruin a movie if there's too much comedy, but it works. Probably because this movie isn't a serious subject, so you don't need to stray away from the comedy too much. But it really works, especially when Megamind mispronounces all these words because he was never taught properly. I mean, that's cool detail in his character itself, but also it's funny. It's real funny, and I love that. Acting. Are the characters convincing? So this movie was an animation, so of course this is strictly voice acting. But holy hell is this a stacked cast. I'm going to list them off for you now because this is insane. Will Ferrell as Megamind. Tom McGrath, who is the director of this movie, played a small role in Prison Guard and Lord Scott, but he also played Skipper in Madagascar. Jonah Hill as Titan / Hal Stewart. Tina Fey as Roxanne Ritchie. Brad Pitt as Metro Man. David Cross as Minion. J.K. Simmons, Triple J himself, as Warden. Ben Stiller as Bernard. Justice Long as, I'm assuming, Megamind's minions, because it was just listed as minions in the cast. Now, when I was younger, I did not realize how stacked this cast was. I didn't even know Will Ferrell was Megamind back then. Now it's clear as day. I can clearly tell when I rewatched it that it's his voice. But I wouldn't change any of these actors. They all did a perfect job. They were really convincing. And honestly, I think at this point, their voices are just iconic with that character. You would not be able to hear any other voice with that character. They nailed it. Cinematography. Is there a creative use of lighting, setting, and wardrobe to convey emotion? Before I get into the cinematic scenes, I'm going to talk about the suits a little bit, the wardrobe. So Metro Man's suit looks exactly like a superhero. Megamind's suit looks exactly like a supervillain. And Titan's suit does look like he's on the fence, which is exactly a story arc in this movie. He doesn't know if he's going to be a hero or a villain, which I thought was a really cool touch of detail. Now, about the emotional cinematic scenes, there was a sad scene in this. I think there was literally only one. And you did feel for the characters. Now, that was probably a lot from the music in the background because it was sad music. That music does tend to change up your emotions. But other than that, I don't really remember if I would shed a tear. But I definitely did feel for Megamind in those scenes. Now, there was one other scene that I'm going to talk about, the lighting, which was really cool. So Megamind is a outgoing supervillain. He wants presentation, especially. So he had a lot of these show lights whenever he entered a battle, and that was honestly pretty cool. It was a bit cringy, but I I didn't really care. I just enjoyed the scene full and full. Editing. This is all about the pacing of the movie. So Megamind is an hour and 35 minutes long, and honestly, that is a good length. They chose not to make it too short, and they chose not to make it way too long. Honestly, I enjoyed this movie enough. I feel like they could have also stretched out the story a little more and added more time. Honestly, if this was a 2 hour movie, I wouldn't have been mad. I honestly would have still enjoyed it. Soundtrack. Now, just like the casting for this movie, this soundtrack was absolutely stacked. I did not remember all these songs being in this movie, but I'm glad that they were. I'm going to go over them now. Highway to Hell, Bad to the Bone, Alone Again, Crazy Train, Mr. Blue Sky, Back in Black, Welcome to the Jungle, and they played Loving You on a boombox by accident, but I did hear it and I thought it was perfect comedic timing. I didn't know about the cast or the soundtrack. I must have not been paying attention at all when I was a kid because that it baffled me when I watched it a second time. And honestly, besides those songs, the Megamind soundtrack, just the songs made for the movie, the background music, those were even honestly pretty good. I obviously don't have singing in them. There's not an actual song. It's just kind of background music, but it didn't pull me away from the movie, which I feel like if you choose a wrong beat or song in general in the background during scenes, it can really pull you out and make you remember that you're just watching a movie. Directing. Now, Tom McGrath is known for making animated movies because he is good at it, which makes sense because he has done Madagascar, Madagascar Escape to Africa, Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted, The Boss Baby, and The Boss Baby 2, Family Business. Now, I haven't watched Family Business or Boss Baby 2, but I loved all the other movies, so I'm not surprised that he nailed Megamind to a T. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this is my favorite one out of those bunch. But I'd have to rewatch Madagascar because, those are some good nostalgic memories. Time. Does it stand the test of time? Yes, absolutely. I mean, this movie was released in 2010. It's 2024, 14 years later, and I'm still enjoying this movie. I mean, if that doesn't stand the test of time, I don't know what will. Reviews. Now, honestly, I think that this movie was fairly reviewed and rated. Rotten Tomatoes critics gave it a 73%. Rotten Tomatoes audience gave it a 72%. And IMDb also gave it a 73%. Now, me personally, I would give it probably an 80 to an 85%. Now, I do understand that critics usually don't rate comedies as high as they should be, just because the jokes aren't for everyone. Comedy is very subjective and it depends on your style if you will enjoy it or not. So I get why they gave it more of a 7 in the 70s, but me personally, I mean, it definitely deserves an 80 or higher. Rankings. Now, honestly, I'm going to have no trouble ranking this movie. I know exactly where it's going to go, and it's going to be first in 2010. It's the only movie I've done so far. In the 2010s, it's going to be above SWAT Firefight, also at first. For obvious reasons, SWAT Firefight is nowhere near as good of a movie as Megamind is. And in all time, it's also going to be first. I mean, it is definitely the best movie I have reviewed so far. The gap between Megamind and Beautiful Disaster is so big that I doubt Megamind will be dethroned anytime soon. But either way, that's all for Megamind. If you want me to review a specific movie, make sure to comment it down below. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.